Welcome. So Friday morning again, back here with Mike and Marco at what we are now going to be calling the Aggressively Healthy Podcast. So,
You forgot Marcus.
yeah, Marcus is here too, our audio tech and behind the scenes who helps run the show. So we really want to reintroduce kind of what we talked about last week, a little bit of a transition into a relatively educational, interactive forum where we want to promote being aggressively healthy, right? So what do you think would be your kind of reason for the aggressively healthy name?
It's twofold. When you think about the people that we serve and kind of our mindset is that we want to move towards certain things in our life. And especially in today's climate where you see people are now spectators in life, especially spectators as it regards to their own health, that they're not really moving towards it actively. And in fact, that they're moving passively towards chronic illness, right? So if just like anything else in life that's worth having, you have to work for it. And working for health is something that we try to encourage, but also streamline it as best we can. There's always going to be some hard work and sacrifice involved, but that's what also makes it worth it. So aggressively healthy to us is the fact that you have to move towards health in a calculated, deliberate manner, but also have a very clear understanding of what it takes to achieve what you want.
Right.
And that mindset has served us well, whether it be us as college athletes or in academia, and it certainly provides a good lens for our customers that like what we do,
Right.
because those guys are usually the higher achievers, high performers in, again, advancing their career, businessmen and women, busy moms and dads, so on and so forth, where they don't want to take another risk that doesn't have a good payoff.
Yeah. I actually, right before this episode started, we've been having a little bit of an issue with the pharmacy, not to get sidetracked. And there's been a whole thing and a push on compounders and all these other things. So I got a text message from a customer who's been a little bit out of medications now for about 10 days. And he's like, well, what's the point of this? Like, I've been out of medications, and the whole reason I came was just purely to look at my cholesterol, and that was my issue. Now, the funny thing is, like, we always talk about it, but aggressively healthy should entail, and I'm using that as an example, entire lifestyle adjustment, right? And accountability to that in terms of lab data or any other measurement we can take. So that proactive approach in a context like that, if lifestyle, if encounters with the environment, if food choices, if exercise, if everything else is involved in the accountability procedure, then really the medicine should be an adjunct, but we should see improvement or maintenance either way. Do you know what I mean? So the whole goal of this is actually, that was a really pertinent comment to hear this morning before we started this, because it really brings to light more of the maintenance and more of the lack of regression and more of what we'll get into later, which we talked about before this episode started, in terms of like delaying entropy and delaying breakdown and delaying kind of death.
The inevitable.
The inevitable is that we will break down. So how do we stop that from happening? So the whole goal of this is aggressively healthy. And I think we want to make that not in terms of a way of like aggression. It's more, how can you attack the problem and kind of be like that buffalo in the storm, right? Where buffaloes on the plains, it was always odd because when people hunted them and they knew storms were coming, say from the west, the buffaloes would turn and start running into the storm, because they knew if I encounter that storm head on and I can run through it and I have the ability to get through it faster without letting it come to me and running away from it, I'll be on the other side of that storm before it harms me. And even as a natural instinct, the buffalo kind of knew that. So how do we become like that? How do we head into the problem, head it off before it becomes an issue, symptomatic intervention in the hospital system, where you do need to be tied to a pharmaceutical, where your lifestyle can't overcome the lack of a medicine, where things are dependent on synthetic intervention? We want to stop that. A little bit about kind of origins too here in how we started. Maybe give a little background on your approach and how your business now became a relatively boutique niche style gym, exercise, healthcare facility.
Yeah, I mean, well, so first of all, I bring this up because I was on a podcast the other day, and someone was asking about how we work together as different professionals, whatever, and I was like, well, let me be transparent. I've known Dr. Lujic for 30 something years.
Yeah.
We went to school together, so most people might not know this, but we've been in contact with one another for 33
Fifth grade.
years. Yeah, fifth grade. And we've been close for that time, and we've always kind of flirted with the idea of what could we do, what could we do, and it really just took like some timing, some life circumstances for us to make this actually a reality. But I think our stories really begin as competitive athletes.
Yeah.
And I think that competitive athlete, high achiever mindset, operational headspace has done both of us well. And we're able to kind of think about how our business or our careers have developed because of that mindset and an inside out phenomenon, like what we think about, what we prioritize, what we value to achieve certain things.
Right.
So obviously playing college sports or playing any amount of athletics, you get hurt. I got hurt quite often. And I actually now look back at most of my injuries were probably avoidable. And most of them were because I trained so hard that I beat myself up so much that recovery became an issue. And my thought process around performance really changed as I got into the profession of strength and conditioning coach. And I started to realize, health is the currency of performance. I don't care what that is. So now that I don't really deal with, let's say, competitive athletes as much, health is still that piece of the puzzle that eludes people, to what they want.
Right.
And, whether you're a lawyer, soccer mom, whatever it may be, you will perform better if you're healthier.
Yeah.
If you take care of yourself, no matter what you do, you'll do better at it.
Right.
And people will also be able to benefit from you being a better version of you.
Yeah.
As cliche as that sounds. So, throughout my career development and what I was exposed to, I started to prioritize health differently. And then when I started to lose my health as, nearing a middle-aged, man,
right.
I started to recalculate some of the things that I could do for myself and then ultimately be able to afford other people.
Yeah.
And that's really like when we started to talk where, you came in and had a absurd transformation, not only physically, but like your whole life changed.
Everything.
So, and then it was like game on.
Yeah.
But how do we do this legitimately?
Right. Yeah, and I think from my side of it was pretty interesting because I'd always, and yesterday in the office, I actually said to a client, 10 years ago, you had come and told me to walk in this office. I would have said that's garbage, right? Because I was so deep in the medical industry where my only vision was how do I operate on humans more, right? Like how do I increase my volume of operative interventions? Because that's how you make a living.
Yeah.
So they corner you into this area of life where it's like, all right, my way to get to a retirement or somewhere where I can experience a fruitful return on my labor is by operating. And the whole drive behind that is sick people getting better. But really, you're just ending that specific symptom, but you're not really making them healthier.
Right.
And once that started coming into play, because I was in a hospital environment interacting with sick people and operating on them, and they were leaving in, wheelchairs to go to a rehab, or they're leaving and they're still diabetic and obese and hypertensive, and they're just leaving the same human with one less organ or maybe a fixed hernia or not with the cancer they walked in with, but they're no truly improved biologically, physiologically from the day they walked in. So I thought, how can we change that? And at the same time that I started thinking about that, I got involved in the gym more and more and more. And I'd always been there. Like you said, competitive athlete, your whole life, you're like playing sports, you're involved in competitive arenas and physical conditioning and mental tuning and everything. And when I got back in the gym, I realized like people in here that walked in unhealthy, a couple months later or a day later, walked out healthier without any symptom development and without a symptom potentially to drive them, to force them into here, because if they didn't walk in here, they weren't going to survive, right? That's a hospital scenario where you have to encounter them. So as that adjustment in my brain was like, oh, I can help people more foundationally. So then we started talking about how do we intervene medically, physically with people to make them not end up sick or with an intervention in a hospital setting or stuck on a medication, not voluntarily, but by design, and they can't really fix it themselves because nobody educated them on how to fix the reason that they're in the hospital. And all of those thoughts came into this, right? And the preventative care and being aggressively healthy and trying to really stave off illness before it even starts. And that through conversation with you, you know, if I had randomly approached somebody in the exercise nutrition world and said, hey, I want to open an office in your building or gym, they're not going to do that. So the relationship, knowing each other for that long, working together, seeing each other, and then finally getting to the point where we could put our professional careers together, it's a no-brainer. And now, you know, we're here with a preventative care medical practice in a preventative care healthcare facility, which is a gym. And I think that model, that structure, that environment of healthcare moving forward will be what changes healthcare, because truly chronic illnesses are getting worse. The hospital system, if you were to grade them, like, I don't care that, you know, US News and World puts out A+, B+, safety, no. Look at the report card, because behind the scenes, all you need to do is look at chronic disease. If you think the healthcare system is winning, just look at their chronic disease. It's up and up and up. That means that they're not really doing any preventative care. So with that being said, the void to fill was easily kind of targeted. And that target is what they're not doing. And it's being healthy prior to hospitalization. So I think we can check all those boxes, right? Like the exercise box, huge. The nutrition box, huge. The medical box is huge. And then behind the scenes, actually being able to communicate as business owners, as friends, as professionals to help the clients we're working with, I don't think you can get a better scenario.
Well, it's funny because someone asked me the other day about, like, why would you have done this? Right. It was actually on the same podcast, or why did it make sense? And I was like, well, all right, so let's say the demand is health.
Right.
Like, that's what we're in demand for, right? As the end user. What's your supply chain? So is your supply chain just training, just nutrition, just lifestyle, just sleep, just stress, like all these things? And I was trying to explain, like, the way that I figured out the next thing is, like, there's always something that you don't know. And the information that you're unaware of is usually the most important and most expensive.
Yeah.
Like finding out you have cancer when it's stage 3.
Right.
You wish you knew it was a stage 1 situation. Right. So I kind of told them about, like, the supply chain to health is everything that we do, so that you're not dependent on the one thing that we're doing, and you have multiple professionals, each with their own kind of subject matter expertise or domain expertise, helping you figure out, because health is such a dynamic, individualized, unique thing for everybody who comes in here.
Right.
But you're not dependent or reliant on one of those things.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, you know, the ecosystem that we created through our shared abilities, skills, beliefs, makes the product and service and the experience so much better. Yeah. And I think on a longer time horizon, you're going to get a better return.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, you know, I think as you see it in training world too, the more you train your body to endure, the less injured you get. The same in medical, the more you train your metabolism and physiology to be resilient, the healthier you are. So now if you put those two together and you create good physical health with developing someone's skill set to improve their body, which then improves their physiology, metabolic system, and we can intervene chemically, I mean, it's the perfect treatment plan, right? The sad thing is people look at that as like an intervention, whereas that should just be baseline what you do to foundationally stay healthy. So what do you think about the chronic disease industry? And what do you think about chronic disease in the United States? Just it's rising, and why, and what can we potentially do about it?
Well, you kind of talked about it, you know, coming from like hospital care, that they're ill-equipped to do anything about it. And like, it's an unfair assessment that hospitals should be responsible for maybe lifestyle interventions or behavioral modification, because A, that's not what they're intended to do as far as I know.
Right.
And B, like all they're doing is operating in the rears, dealing with all these chronic issues.
Yeah.
Right. And okay, so we can't necessarily blame them, but then we have no one else to kind of point the finger to, or at least maybe an alternative to help alleviate this massive economic medical burden that is now on our society.
Yep.
So I think about that is that we don't really have a institution that is concerned about generating health, only fighting disease, right? And that's healthcare, that's our medical system, that's insurance and all that stuff.
Yep.
So who are the people that are actually trying to generate health? Well, okay, you look at trainers, you look at coaches, you look at nutritionists, age management practices are definitely now but they're all still very much fringe.
Right.
And they're elective and they're kind of unknown and there's some uncertainty about it.
Right.
So like, I feel as though chronic illness can be dealt with very directly, but it's the education, it's the information, it's the access, it's the awareness that these things are out there, outside of the fact that the ability to your next decision can really impact your life, whether that be going to bed early, putting your phone down, eating better food. But again, like at the population level, all these things make sense. But we now know this better than probably anyone. At the individual level, they need more guidance, more support, more direction, more feedback, more accountability.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a one size fits all, one quick fix. It's like a lot of these things. But again, there's no deliberate institution that's set up to do this.
Right.
So it kind of makes me wonder what the definition of frontline healthcare worker is.
Yeah.
So are we now assuming that position because it was kind of an amorphous term before?
Right.
And I'd like to say yes. I'd like to rise to the challenge of that because we're probably the best equipped. The way that and I'm not just saying us as a company, I'm saying people who are in coaching, training, physical fitness, nutrition.
This is where it starts.
Lifestyle. Like this is it. But to get the movement, no pun intended, to be more of this,
right,
it's an uphill battle for sure.
Well, it sure is, because people it brings into light this conversation too, because some people with any delay in pharmaceutical now through me get very alarmed because they're like, well, I'm paying and maybe something's delayed a day or two, right? Now, these are people that really never paid attention to their health much potentially before, now in tune with it because they're paying out of pocket.
Yep.
But the funny thing is they pay somebody who says, I'm going to deliver value straight to you, and the fulfillment when theirs appreciated, but say it's delayed a touch, it's irritating. Meanwhile, for years, you pay into an insurance company, and you know what you get back every month? Nothing. And you know what you're paying every month? A ton. Over a year, a ton. On average, if you paid $12,000 a year from like the time you're, 20 to 65, it's like $1 million, $750,000 plus worth into the system. The average end of life care costs about $60,000, right? The majority of humans, if the average end of life care is $60,000, and the average human out of the 250 million in the United States are putting around 10 to 30 grand into the system of insurance companies, just do the math, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not rocket science to figure out that they're making a huge margin on delivering you nothing. Not only delivering you nothing, but now chronic disease on the rise. So it's a funny thing, you said the whole what is it, value?
Oh yeah, price is what you pay, value is what you get.
Right. So the price of health insurance in the United States is very high. The value is actually zero, right? Until you have a symptom that was probably preventable.
Well, I would say also as a caveat to that is that the chronic disease that you're probably accruing because of the lifestyle and the lack of support,
right,
you're going to need it, and in the worst possible way. So that's the only reason why it would become valuable.
Yeah.
Guess what? You have a heart attack. Guess what? You have an episode. Guess what?
Right.
But if you think about it, like you start health insurance as soon as your baby's born. Right?
Yeah.
You start paying, and then they assume that. So over the course of a lifetime, how much you actually pay in? Let's just say it's $3 million.
Yeah.
how much of that has actually generated health? And I think that's the conversation that needs to be had, is like, how do you actually generate, preserve, maintain health?
Right.
We don't have a system for that.
No, at all. We just have
And the amount of money, sheer economics, would say that that's the worst freaking deal going right now.
Well, the funny thing is I have a question on here in terms of like, what is the scale that we evaluate the data on in the science world? And you said, how do we have like measures of health where we kind of don't? Because the only measure of health is like, oh, your labs are in a certain range. If you walk into a doctor's office, severely overweight, hypertensive, mildly diabetic, inactive, they will check your labs. If your labs look remotely close to normal, you will get told, hey, eat less and exercise. Let's see how you do in a year. Here's medication to help your blood pressure. Here's a little medication for your sugar. Have a good day. 15 minutes. I'll see you in a year. The person that allowed their body to get to that point, what do you think that person's going to do over the next year if you're not really paying attention to them, right? So nothing.
Same.
So there's no accountability. So how do you provide accountability to the consumer? Make them pay, right? If you pay into something, you pay attention to it, right? Like that email I got today came from somebody who hadn't been to a doctor in 10 years. But now all of a sudden they know when their medication's missing after 2-3 days, right? Little different focus, whether or not it's over time being like, oh, I'm mature now, I'm going to focus, or whether it's, I'm investing in my health. What's my return?
Yeah.
Now, you've changed the focus. You've allowed people to really start to realize the price versus the value. And the hard part's going to be, like you said, and I don't know what the answer is, what the system is, how the best version of it goes, but I do know that people are going to start opening their eyes and getting sick of having to pay out of pocket to get a return on something that they should be getting a return on they're already invested in. And it's kind of a waste of money thing that we just tolerate because we don't hold ourselves accountable, because we are just willing to wait till the disaster happens, because the hospitals and healthcare systems have reinforced a false sense of security that they can fix anything. But meanwhile, it's just duct tape. It'll get you through to the next day.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's where, like if you look at statistics, and let's just say the average lifespan of a male is 77 years old, and someone's 40 and has all these all these chronic disease issues or mounting chronic disease issues.
Right.
They're probably thinking about, well, I mean, the average guy gets another 37 years out of it. Like, why do I? The medicine will figure it out.
Right.
Like, it'll keep me alive. It's just like, and I think that's where the deeper question of like, well, what does that life look like?
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't willing to ask that question. And like, listen, let's be honest. Like, death is scary. It's, it comes for us all. And
we want to avoid it.
But the most important thing is like, well, how do you want to live? If we know death is going to happen, how do you want to live life? And if you want to live on the couch, going to your PCP once a year and saying, hey, yeah, you're not that bad yet.
Right.
Here's a pill, or I'll see you next year. Maybe you should eat more or
Right.
eat less and move more or something like that. Then we're not for you anyways. Like, that's not our mentality. That's not our value system. That's not our belief process or anything else. So do that.
Right.
But for those who are looking for an alternative, that's another reason why we chose to be aggressively healthy. It's It's not for everyone. I'm sorry.
No.
But I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
We're not for everyone. This is something that's like, it's an invested approach.
And it's kind of why we set it up. Like, so I get a lot of comments, hey, why'd you put your office in a gym? It's going to be very intimidating to some people when they walk in. And I said, yes, there may be a small percentage that like the outliers, that it might not be the right spot, whatever. But if you are uncomfortable at a gym where everybody in here is willing to say hi, nobody actually pays attention to anybody doing anything good, bad, or ugly. We're all just excited to be in a space working out.
Yeah.
If that makes you uncomfortable and you're not willing to encounter your health with exposure to a gym environment, then we kind of weeded you out. Like, I don't want the person that has no interest in the exercise part of this. I don't really want the person that's like, nah, I don't like the gym, right? That's not how this works.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, the person that says, I don't like the gym, I don't like working out, I don't like moving my body much and sweating, that's the same person that forces themselves to go to work, make $1 because they got to keep the electricity on. Well, I want to tell them, hey, buddy, if you don't force yourself kind of to like go do something physical, your electricity is going to get turned off. And the Grim Reaper turns off the electricity abruptly, right? So unfortunately, they don't realize kind of where they're heading by avoiding that. So even if we, on the other end of it, to me, what's more exciting is I do get that 1 or 2 people here and there that are really, really gym averse that walk in here, get a little bit inspired. And now we've kicked that person from a non-gym human into an exercise human. I would much rather risk losing business for the reward of forcing 1 or 2 people into an exposure that might help them get healthy. So that risk balance to me, no brainer, right? And I think in healthcare, the funny thing is there's like all these preconceived notions. Oh, a doctor in a gym, he's going to be purely into like men's health or what. It's just preconceived notions. So the hard thing to do in medicine is also not politicize things purely for gain of power or monetization or marketing. What's your take on the healthcare industry and its politicalization as well as the marketized and monetized movement? Because a lot of things out there are fads, right? And a lot of people are just trying to sell to make money. So what do you think can help differentiate us, for instance, from it appearing like we're trying to sell you something to truly we're just trying to get you healthy and educated?
Yeah. So I think every industry has its like recurring fads.
Yeah.
You know, and I only know fitness because I've been in fitness pretty much my whole professional life. And even prior to professional, you know, like I bought muscle and fitness, and I remember Taibo and all those, those things. So you see these, Taibo. Marcus wouldn't know anything about that, but some of our listeners would. Which reminds me, you should probably get your colonoscopy scheduled if you know what Taibo is.
Yeah, get it.
But yeah, the fad, and it just takes a different form.
Yeah.
But now you're starting to see it, I think, also in the healthcare, you know, where there's more influencers and maybe that fitness, that those people who are trying to toggle fitness to health and medical, but not say they're medical, but infer that, especially because social media is now way more prominent in how people market. And then it's always aligned with some political affiliation. So there's a lot of different contributing factors to the messiness that we're now seeing, which probably also supports the fact that people just don't know what to freaking do. Yeah. Like they have so much information that's conflicting. They're like, literally, they don't know who to believe. Right. So I think one of the things that we can attest to is like, we have a pretty good principle-based approach. Yeah. Meaning that these things don't go in and out of vogue. Right. Like they've been here, they've been proven, the literature supports it. And that's on the science end of things, the nutrition end of things. And now, you know, thankfully we have a medical piece that is congruent to our values on how we want to practice physical medicine. Yeah. But we now have the support of these other, you know, and they're not new. They're just now more in plain view. Peptide therapy, hormone therapy, the diagnostics that we use, things of that they've been around. Yeah. They just haven't been leveraged at scale. Yeah. And that's the problem.
Yeah. And the crazy part is, I mean, not to divulge any secrets, but everybody's like, oh, you know, this new version of medicine. And we're actually reinventing the wheel, but how the wheel should have been invented, I think.
Yeah, it should have been used.
Like the medical wheel was a perfect idea because back in the day, people were just dying and they couldn't stop them. So like medicine intervened, whether it was cut stuff off. Then we learned about antibiotics. That helped a huge amount of people. Then we had anesthesia. That helped a huge amount of people, right? But that was almost a bad thing. It almost positively reinforced poor behavior because we could get you out of a jam. It'd be like the kid that every single time they get in trouble at school, their parent shows up and bails them out, right? Like that doesn't set you up for success. And we've been complacent. So really all we're doing is going way back prior to the times of antibiotics, prior to the times of anesthesia, and trying to figure out like, if you didn't have the hospital available to you, how best do you live the longest? because that's what it comes down to. People just don't, like, if you're a type 2 diabetic, purely dietary lifestyle, you clearly have demonstrated you don't give a shit, right? Like, it is what it is. I mean, I can't say it any other way, because you can cure your disease. If that was a terminal cancer where you said, okay, you're going to die in a week if you do not go drink a gallon of water every day for the next 3 days, what are you going to do? You're going to drink a gallon of water.
Yeah.
Right? But diabetics, you can't really give them that ultimatum, because morally you can't do that. You can't like strip their insulin from them. But if you did, they would either have to eat well and live, or continue what they're doing and die. But we provide this safety net, a false sense of security, and we kind of delay the inevitable. But I think what we've done is reinvented the wheel the right way, where if you do encounter your nutrition, you do encounter your exercise, you do hold yourself accountable to those things by showing up every day. Like somebody said, why do you post videos of yourself working out all the time? You know what? You know why I do? For one reason. Number one, it keeps me accountable to the population that's hopefully learning something about health. And number two, it's just consistency, right? Like, it just proves to myself, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, to me, all right, Marco, you can get up every day and do this, because I know that's what I need to do to maintain my health. So if we reinvent that, where the people's primary approach to their health was an investment in their nutrition, their exercise, and metabolic health, we might not need that $60,000 expenditure on end-of-life care for the person that's sitting in the hospital with diabetes, a bad heart, high blood pressure, that needs that 6 weeks of intensive care, right? We can avoid that.
Yeah, right.
Are we all going to succumb to time? Sure, right? Nobody's invented that fix yet, hopefully. But how can we encounter that the best? And I think that's what we're starting to do really well. I think we're starting to open people's eyes to the fact that health is available if you go seek it. Real health, not just let's wait till something breaks.
I just wanted a key on one thing that you said about the consistency, as well as, like, you know, why you do what you do.
Right.
And I think people are a little confused about, like, when we're talking about what we do and the consistency.
Yeah.
Yes, what we do is important, like the acts themselves, the counting of macros or calories and the training and all that stuff. But more importantly, it is the persistence and consistency of the act than the act itself.
Yes.
Because again, that is a direct reflection of what you find valuable. And that goes along the line, like, it doesn't stop. Right? Like, your commitment, like, if you want health, it is a day-to-day fight, week-to-week endeavor, month-to-month. Like, it's part of you. Yeah. And it's not that we have the one magic thing or the special process or the quick fix system. Right. It is the commitment that you are now having to apply to the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it in like a weird way, like, we don't know how humans were invented. So that's another discussion, which before we came on air, we started talking about that, but that's a long, lengthy discussion. If whoever made humans, or I don't know, however we popped out, was a little bit sadistic, kind of human life is a challenge, right? We always do these like 4-6 week challenges. Can you lose 10 pounds? No. How about, can you go start to finish? Whoever lives the longest wins, right? Like the 125-year-old guy or woman sitting in their chair telling me a story, I'm going to believe way more than the 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, right? Because they've made it.
Yeah.
So life is a health challenge. But the interesting thing is you bring up that persistence, and it triggered a word in my head called diet. And the word diet has been associated with a change in something you're doing to go into a caloric deficit. But the real word diet should mean just what you eat.
Correct.
How you live.
Yep.
So a proper diet has nothing to do with limiting calories, or it just has to do with
restricted, or the connotation that it's punitive.
Yeah, like somebody says to me, "Oh, what diet are you?" I'm diet. I eat like a mule all day. I can't eat enough. Half the time I cannot keep up with my calories, right? So diet needs to be changed too. We really need to adjust that word into something more fitting, where it's like, okay, here's just a lifestyle of eating, rather than quote unquote diet. I just don't really like that word. Now, do you think
just another thing, because diet is if you zoom out, diet is about consumption.
Yeah.
So just like what you eat can make you sick, all the other things that you consume, the people that you're with, the shows
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah,
watch,
yeah.
like the media
Life
that
diet.
you view.
Yep.
So everything that you consume
Yeah.
from almost like a sensory input standpoint can make you sick.
Right.
But therefore, if you make the right choices, those same choices can allow you to be healthy.
Yeah.
But you have to actively, aggressively move towards those things.
Now, imagine if we treated gym world like we treat medicine world. So somebody walked in here and you have them do a bench press, and you'd previously done this with like 100,000 other people. So for every 60-year-old that walked in, you said, oh, you can usually bench between 0 pounds and 80 on average. Do you think then everybody who walks in the gym on their first assessment, if they can lift between 0 and 80 pounds on a bench press, should they then be pat on the back and tell them, no, you're good, you're normal, see you in a year?
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that in the healthcare world. That's the equivalent, which is kind of disgusting. So are we living to the common denominator in terms of like expectations? Or do you think we need to change our approach, right? Where when somebody walks in this gym and sees you, how you look, how you live, they should aspire to hopefully get there, right? Now, is that achievable? Is that reasonable? No. But at least it sets a goal where, like, how do we try to convince people that it's better to aspire to improve than just be where you are?
Oh my God. That's a deep question, because I think that infers that there's some level of motivation that has to happen.
Right.
Right. And a motivation is another term that I struggle with, because it means something different to everyone.
Right.
Except it's the outcome. Like, you can only truly tell if someone's motivated if they do it or not. And then if they do it, how did they do it? Right? Like, how well, how much thought, how much effort, how much, persistence did they apply to it? So when I think about like what people, especially new people that are coming in looking for change, I'm going to give them the credit of being motivated enough to know something. They have identified something in their life that they want to change.
Yeah.
And that is a precursor for taking the next step. And hopefully, because we do have a fairly comprehensive an evaluation and discussion strategy session about that, they feel like they can make an informed decision about how to proceed based on our recommendations.
Right.
And this is where the knowledge is power, because if they're looking to lose 50 pounds and they want to lose it next month, we can reasonably say that's not a reasonable thing.
Yeah.
And maybe unhealthy to do it that way. And maybe the reason why you're looking for that and have tried that before is the reason why you're still trying to do it.
Right. Right.
So resetting the framework of their goals, because I have yet to meet someone with a bad goal. I've met a lot of people with a great goal and a horrible timeline. So trying to help them reconcile what needs to be done, what the inputs have to be, and then allowing that expectation to be met by reality and the changes that will take place. Because it becomes, to me, it becomes a matter of inevitability that they will get there.
Right.
It's just maybe it's 6 months, not 2.
Yeah.
1 year, not 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then that also gives that person, it empowers the person to be like, that is what I want. I know it's going to take longer now. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be, whatever.
Right.
But they also know that we are there for them and that we will help them be supported and guide them through the step-by-step process.
Yeah. And
which does not happen in medicine.
no, at all, because there's not enough providers.
There's not enough labor force.
You can't do it. I mean, I spend, on average per year in my office, I spend somewhere between 4 to 6 hours with each client.
Which compared to any
15,
general practitioner,
15 minutes.
Yeah,
1.5.
So
1.5.
if you just spent 1 hour, it's a 4x return.
My cost here is about a third of general cost if you were paying an insurance premium. And for them, you get $12 or 12 minutes. On average, if the average American is paying around $600 to $800 a month per person for healthcare insurance, think about that, right? So 800 times 12 is $9,600. So for $9,600, you pay for 15 minutes of time from your doctor. How's that feel?
Yeah.
Right? And what do you get?
And for that same amount of money, you get like a 20x time differential.
Yeah.
20x.
20x.
And that's just with you, not your staff.
Just with me.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody who knows you.
Yeah, right.
right? You don't call me and it's, oh, you're number 900. Or do your clients call you and you're like, wait, you're Marco
Remind me
who? No.
Remind me who you
They
are.
call and I'm like, oh, gotcha. We'll fix that, right? So I think this is good. I think hopefully everyone liked this discussion. But now we're going to go into we'll bring a little something to the table from as an ode to our yesteryears and Matthew Nolan, who introduced us to the podcast world. So a game. Marcus, you're in on this. Do you have a mic?
I don't. I can set one up.
All right, we're gonna have to get Marcus in on this. Marcus is our audio visual guy, as you said. He's
our savant.
He's our savant.
Yeah, he's
he's
special.
Very handsome.
Devilishly.
He's not single though, so
Yeah.
if you guys
Sorry, ladies.
Yeah, if you guys catch a glimpse of him
Or
on
guys.
yeah, whatever.
I actually don't know much about Marcus.
Well, we're gonna have to learn more. But yeah, we'll get into a game, and we'll it's a little bit of would you rather. So we just honesty matters. So
Am I playing against him?
no, we're all playing. We're all playing. Would you rather eat 100 hot dogs in a month or 100 cheeseburgers?
Cheeseburgers. I don't eat hot dogs.
Cheeseburgers?
That's 3 a day.
Yeah, that's
disgusting.
That's a lot. I think I'll go hot dogs.
I've only had 2 hot dogs.
But
my whole
vomiting
life.
up a hot dog is a lot less tragic than a cheeseburger.
Nasty. You ever see how they're made?
Hot dogs? Yeah, just grind up everything in a pig. Would you rather stub your toe every morning or slam your finger in the car door every morning? Pinky toe hard against the metal frame of the bed.
Or slam my finger?
In the door. Every day, every morning for the rest of your life.
I'll say toe.
Toe?
Yeah.
Can you hear yourself well in that? I can't hear you well either.
I'm going to go toe as well.
Toe?
Toe 2.
All right. How about
What about you?
me? I'd rather toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
don't
need
know
my-
why.
I like my
need
hands.
the hands. Yeah.
Would you rather, this is a tough one. Audience, you can't judge us on this one. Would you rather win $10 million or donate $10 million to a cancer charity? That's tough.
I'll go. So I'm going to give you my plan.
Yeah, this is so bad.
I'm going to take the 10 million.
Yeah.
And
Invest.
I'm going to invest
Yeah.
in assets
Yeah.
so that I can provide more than $10 million at a later date
I'm
and
in.
time.
All right.
Yeah, I second that.
Good. And then I'll leave my answer blank. Would you rather eat a dog or eat a cat if
Cat.
you had to?
Oh,
Cat.
dog.
Yeah, I'd go dog. There's way more meat.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a cat guy.
No.
Yeah.
I can't eat
And
garlic.
cats, I think, are like witches and goblins and shit in other lives. So I think if you die and there's something else out there, that cat's going to haunt you forever.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Would you rather get a paper cut between your toes or on the corner of your mouth?
Ugh. Toes.
Toes.
I'll say mouth.
Really?
Really?
Everything
Yeah.
you eat is going to be
Vinegar.
jacked
You're walking
up.
around, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah, I'm going toes.
Well,
I'm
I already
going toes.
stubbed my toe in the morning. I might as well cut it.
Would you rather kiss your sister or your mother? Marcus.
Oh, that's terrible.
Or your brother.
Yeah.
All right.
Who came up with this?
I don't know. Me. I did, actually.
Yeah.
Would you rather have hands on your feet forever or have feet on your hands forever?
Hands on my feet.
Yeah, hands on my feet.
I can put shoes on.
Yeah, but walking would be fucking hard.
You could probably do
Fine.
some cool
What
stuff.
am I going to do with feet for hands? Like,
No, I know. I don't know. And you can't, like, feet for hands would be bad.
You could punch with your feet.
Aren't there websites that feet near feet things?
oh, I don't know.
Like, that'd be 4 feet for one picture. That's an OnlyFans.
Is that a fact?
I don't know. Fact check. Would you rather have fingers that were penises or no eyes?
Holy shit.
This is a tough one. Imagine 10,
eyes.
10
Yeah, no
penis.
eyes.
No eyes.
No eyes.
Wait, you would rather have hands, no eyes than.
What? I mean,
Yeah, true. It'd suck to have 10.
what am I? They don't do it.
I don't know. Both of them are tough.
No
Would
eyes.
you rather be Tommy or Pete? Oh, imagine. One is like you're in
Suicide an option?
prison mentally. The other's like you're skinny and you
Physically,
can't get big.
But I can't tell which one
But you
is
can't.
which.
Yeah, it's it's worse. I'll be Pete. Would you rather sit in underwear that had poop in them for an hour,
Oof.
or have your kid throw up on you and sit with that on you for an hour?
Throw up.
It's my own poop or someone else's poop?
It's your poop.
It's my poop. I'll sit in my own poop.
Sit in your own poop?
I guess.
All right, we're good. I think that answers our questions.
I hope
For the
that
listeners,
enriched everyone's life.
Yeah, that'll make you smarter. So listen, here's the deal. Make it interactive. Reach out. We love kind of knowing what the consumer wants, right? So this is an informational session. Let it rip. Interact with us. We'll be getting guests on here. We'll be getting people from all kind of walks of professional life. If you guys have any suggestions for that, please let us know. Our goal is the entrepreneurial world, or if you are in a corporate medical field. And I would love to have a OB, a urologist, any sort of hormone-related medical professional on here who maybe agrees or disagrees or whatever. I mean, any topic of discussion would be amazing. So please reach out. We really appreciate it.
How are we doing that now? Because all the stuff is changing
Yeah.
over. So where to find us?
I would
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, DM us, and we'll have an email set up for the Aggressively Healthy podcast, and we'll put it on the screen when we release. Appreciate your time. God bless.
See you guys.
Adios.